Hey, everyone. JT here. It's Friday if you are tuning in live. Friday is our day in the huddle. And I just wanted to welcome you, whether you're tuning in live, whether you are checking out the replay. I wanted to acknowledge you. One of the greatest resources that you can ever invest in is yourself. And investing this time and energy being here with me and my special guest today, I promise you one thing: you will leave this conversation with valuable insights, nuggets of gold that can really help you start to achieve your next level of greatness. So what I'm going to encourage you to do is to go all in, get rid of those distractions, listen to what my special guest has to say today, because he's getting it done. And he has achieved a lot of great things, not only athletically, but is in the process of becoming one of the future leaders in whatever he chooses to do. And I firmly believe, I tell him this all the time, he's a future leader in business, CEO. I see all these amazing things happening for him. So please, Thinking into Greatness family, please help me welcome into the huddle today, Matt MacNeill. Thanks for joining us, Matt.
Thank you for having me, Suey. I'm excited to have a conversation and chat. Yeah.
Yeah. So for those that don't know Matt, I know many of you do know, just because Matt and I are former Vikings, and I know many of you in the Thinking into Greatness are also Vikings. So I did get some messages, some thumbs up this week. Really looking forward to our conversation. So just to give you all of you some insight here into Matt. So Matt and I started to work together when I went to Lucas, and I was working with Matt at track and field, which is one of his passions. Now, just to give you some context of Matt, okay, he is a multiple OFSA medalist, which for those who don't know, that is like the provincial high school championships here in Ontario, Canada. Matt has also competed provincially through his club. He has competed nationally, and he was also part of a under 20 team that competed at the Pan Am in Costa Rica. So I have seen firsthand over the last few years, Matt grow himself, not only in all areas, athletically especially, and he's doing it, and it's going there. So again, I would really encourage you to really listen to Matt, and he's got a powerful story. So Matt, we'll dive right into the huddle here. I would love to know, anyone that knows you knows how important sport is to you. What was that first experience, or maybe like a memory that really sticks out to you, where you started to really fall in love with sport?
Yeah. So I think at a young age, I just grew up playing. I have three other siblings. So just kind of, as long as I can remember, just kind of playing sports all the time. We'd run outside. I'd get dragged to their games, practices, whatever, with my parents. So I think kind of a specific moment I can't really think of, but I think just as long as I can remember, really, whether it was going to watch hockey, my brother, or basketball, my other brother, or my sister watching her soccer, it was always just kind of just there, and sport was a huge thing, for as long as I can remember. Yeah.
So it really sounds like you were just brought up in an environment around being sort of integrated into sport.
Yeah, totally. I always had that, the athletic bone in my body, just playing. Like, we have old family videos of just me when I was, I don't know, 5 or 6. We're just playing in the backyard, playing soccer, and just, having fun and enjoying the sunshine, honestly, what kids do, right? So yeah.
Well, I love that. And what I really get from you there, and what I'm really hearing from you, is just that love of getting outside, moving your body, of just connecting with family over sport. Really sounds like that was part of the growth process and part of how you start to fall in love.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah. So it's interesting that as I've gotten to know you, although your primary focus now is track and field,
Mhm.
you grew up playing a lot of different sports, right? Like you were a high level basketball player, you were a high level soccer player, you were also a very high level volleyball player. What was that something that was intentional in terms of being like a very multi-sport athlete? Was that something that your parents stressed? Was that something that you just did yourself?
Um, I'd say my parents didn't stress. They just kind of were like at a young age, just we're gonna sign you up for this, and you can try all these sports. Do what you like to do, and if you're not like, I know at a young age, I tried. They put me in hockey, and I didn't like hockey too much.
Okay.
I was used to complain about the early mornings, and then next thing, on the next year, I think I was 7. I did house league basketball. So as long as I was enjoying something, my parents didn't really care what it was or what sport it was. Um, so yeah, I did. I mean, I did all the sports I could as long as I could. I had to sadly give up, each kind of sport as I went from grade 9 to 12, just because I had concussions and such. That was tough for me. I mean, like you said, basketball is a huge part of my life. Definitely my favorite sport. Really, really love that one. Still do, but can't really play it at the level that I wanted to when I was younger, or can anymore. So yeah.
Okay. And it's interesting that as you hear that, and one of the things, anyone that knows your parents, again, I've spent some time with your family and really got to know your parents. Just, I mean, that's the nature, right? We're at track meets for 2, 3 days on end. You get to know people
Yeah,
well, right?
yeah.
And one of the things I loved about parents were they were always there, right? They were always there and always so just supporting. They were always so
Mhm.
complimentary of myself and Herdo and just yeah, it was great. But what I really love is that you mentioned that they just signed you up for sport, right? Like there was no pressure there.
Mhm.
And it's really interesting because last week I chatted with Ben Kozera, who's a pro football player. A few
Mhm.
weeks ago, Nick Hallett, who's a pro football player, and Mackenzie Ferguson was the first time in the huddle. And it's really interesting that as I chat with more and more with the highest performers, people who are not only just playing at a high level, but really performing at a high level, their parents just there was no pressure there. It was just like, we're just going to introduce you to sport and and it almost developed like this love. So is that's would you say that that's true, that there was like no pressure, it was just
Yeah, I think me being the youngest of 4, I think my siblings were always in sports. So like I said before, it's just that's what we did. And I think that my parents signed us up. They want to keep us busy and active, right? They didn't want us, being sitting at home, not doing anything. So I think just sport was a way for us to stay busy. And I mean, like there would be nights back home when, it'd be hard to have like a full family dinner. If we had a full family dinner, that would be like a rarity. People are always going places, whether we had dinner, then you had 10 minutes, had to go to practice or had to go somewhere else. But my parents definitely, they sacrificed a lot for us, and we all are very thankful for that. And they definitely, like you said, they were there supporting, still do support me. They come and watch. I mean, talking about Costa Rica, my mom came, so that was great to have her there, and she flew out and she enjoyed that, and I think they enjoy seeing us do that. And yeah, it's great. It's great having that support. Mhm.
I, I love that. And for any of you future parents here, right? Many of you are wanting to be parents. Many of you are competing here. Listen, success always leaves clues. Listen to these high performers like Matt, like Ben, like Nick and Mackenzie, right? You can be a multi-sport athlete, and the best athletes are multi-sport, right? And so here's sticking on the theme of family. You were mentioning how you were the youngest, right, of 4.
Yep.
And what really makes it unique about your family is obviously very high performing athletes. Like you have siblings that have competed again at the highest level before.
Mhm.
What was that like growing up in an environment not only around other high level athletes, but just ones that really were the top of their game. Like, what was that like just growing up in that environment?
Yeah, so it's funny you say that. I can like vividly remember, I think it's 2010. Offset was in London, and both my brother and sister were running, and I'm 10 years old, and I'm not understanding what offset is, and like this, like how hard it is to make, and let alone win, and I remember my sister, she won in the 100 hurdles, and I was like happy for her and like excited, but little did I know what that was. And with my brother, he had set some officer records, and I'm out here like cheering and yelling, and and at the time, watching my brother, and not only that, but other Olympic athletes. Aaron Brown, I remember he ran there as well. So I think I was just didn't understand, just so young and not understanding what that level they were at and achieving that. So yeah, I just kind of took it all in, and definitely wanted to aspire to be that. I don't think I realized until I put myself in that position, how hard it is to do what they did. You don't really truly understand until you put yourself in their shoes and try to pursue those same goals and aspirations.
That's great. What's interesting is you talk about 2010 offs, and I still remember around that timeline of when it was there. So it's interesting that, yeah, it just just one of my former coaching colleagues was instrumental, right, in the London track community, and help with like sort of offset. So it's just funny that we go back to the same, and we're both there. Yeah, no, so
Yeah,
cool.
yeah.
So one thing that's really evident, it sounds like your siblings kind of gave you a glimpse of what was possible for you. Would that be fair to say?
Yeah, totally. What was, what the highest of highs looks like, and what you can do with sport, and if you want to do that or you don't. I mean, as high and as well as they performed, and my other brother playing like a high level basketball and stuff. I mean, there was never like the pressure of, oh, you need to do this. I think if anything, my siblings were like, enjoy what you can do now and do all the sports you can. Like, you don't want to specialize too early. You don't want to, it's just mentally draining. You still want to be that kid who's having fun and playing the sports because you love them. You don't want to turn it into like a 9 to 5 strict too early. And that's not a bad thing later on. But when you're young and you have those options, you need to really, I think, embrace those, and you don't realize it's gone until it's too late, So,
So what I'm really hearing from you is that enjoying the process, and yes, the end product is something we're striving for. Obviously, yeah, you want to run fast on in the finals, but it's really
yeah.
falling in love with the process, right? Okay.
No, I'm a firm believer of, if you're not having fun, then that's not, you lost the love for the sport. I mean, right now I show the practice, and as much as I need to be on point and work hard and stuff, there's got to be jokes here and there. You got to have fun. You got to play music. You still got to have that excitement, because if everything's going 120% intensity, you're gonna get drained. You're not gonna perform, and that's what I believe. And we try to bring that to practice all the time in Guelph, and that's all I can remember growing up as well.
It's I really love how you share about the impact and the influence your older siblings have had on you. One of my best memories of our time together was in Belleville, right, in
Oh, yeah.
2017, where you had just double medalist, right, at OFSA, and there's this picture in front of outside the Nike tent. And for anyone that's never been to the OFSA track, like there's always these big Nike always has these big tents there, and you can get these pictures done. And we won't even get into the whole lineups of the lineups that goes into Nike Tech. But there's always this kind of, think of it like a red carpet event where you have this backdrop and of OFSA and there. And I still remember this picture of your three siblings carrying you, right?
Yeah,
And just you
holding me
sort of
up.
lying down. and
Yeah,
them sort of,
they all came to support me, and that was great having them there. And they we wrote on the sign, I think, the amount of opposite medals we have as a family,
yeah,
and then they just held me up. And yeah, definitely one of my favorite memories is having them all support me, and kind of they have their own things going on, right? And they took the time to come see me in Belleville, which I mean isn't close for where where we all are. So it
yeah,
was nice to have them there for sure.
yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah. Great.
yeah.
You know what? That is one of my favorite that weekend was just, I don't know, there was something about that weekend is truly, Matt, one of my favorite memories actually coaching high
Mhm.
school sports. I don't know what it was
Yeah.
about that weekend, but just it was amazing.
It was a good weekend. Yeah, it was fun. It was warm, so
Yeah.
can't complain
Yeah.
with that, right?
Yeah. We won't go into Emily's graduation dinner with the whole steak fiasco, but
No,
that's
yeah,
possible.
I remember that. That was funny. That was funny.
Okay. So what I would as before we were coming on here, we were chatting, and one of your gifts, Matt, is your level of preparation.
Mm,
And I truly believe it's one of your superpowers is your persistence. If anyone wants to see what it takes at a high level, they just need to watch you before a meet. Like you are so dialed in, you are so on focus. Everything is just like clockwork, right? Like
mm.
I remember just being able to look at my clock and okay, got to start walking down towards the warm up area because it's what Matt, So
Yeah.
what I would love to know is that level of preparation.
Mm.
Was that something that has come naturally for you, or is that something that you've learned over time?
I think it's a little bit of both. I know a big thing for me, back to my oldest brother Gregory, I know watching him prepare, um, and kind of get zoned in and locked in with the headphones and dancing and singing lyrics and having a good time, that kind of like sparked something for me. It was like, that's what I want to do because he looks like he's having fun. So I kind of try to incorporate that into my warm-ups and have a good time, because you're at that point, you just gotta go have fun. All the hard work is done. I'm a firm believer of, um, in warm up and race days, like, okay, you need to be locked in, but you also don't want to be too focused or too locked in, because it's draining. You want to have fun, like I said before, having fun and enjoying the moment. Because when I look in when I'm done my track career, I don't want to. I want to have memories where, like, oh yeah, I enjoyed this when I was doing this. I want to be like, oh, it was so like strenuous and like stressful on those days. Race day is exciting and jump day because you could go out there and do what you love and have fun, and you just gotta take it all in. And it's you can control what you can control, and I just go in and try to focus up and dial in. Yeah.
I love that. And what I really get from that is just that ability to be an optimal performer, right? Is really, and you mentioned this earlier. One thing I love about track is just it's about it's really about perfecting that you're ready to go as soon as that gun goes, right? Or as soon
Hmm.
as you go down the lane for the jump. And
Hmm.
that's what I love about it. It's not about just reps and sets, like just mindlessly going through reps and set. It's quality over quantity.
Yeah, highly demanding, and highly, you need to be on point and ready to go when
Yeah.
the gun goes, or you're on the runway and you need to jump something. Hmm.
So again, I just think back to you watching you pre-race, right? And or even just in training up to the week of, and you were always very intentional and very
Hmm.
aware of your training volume, right? Like you
Hmm.
are an athlete that I know quality over quantity, right? And just being able
Hmm.
to even balance high school practice, club practice,
Hmm.
and going there.
Yeah.
But even on race day, like you were mentioning, there was these times where you're really locked in and just getting there. But then I know we would also come down here and you would be like, okay, I need to sort of down regulate, sort of just calm.
Yeah.
Where did that come from? Like, was that just watching your siblings, like in terms of really the ebbs and flows?
I think with that, yeah, and growing up watching ton of live sports and just watching athletes prepare and them having a good time. You know, when I go on race day, like I have a pretty strict regime. Like I'm gonna, either eat these some types of foods I'm gonna eat before. I'm gonna take, whether it's like, mentally prepare, take certain like, to eat some certain things, or just kind of um, lock in. And I think having like kind of going up and down, I think it just kind of eases, because everyone's nervous and stressed on big competition days, right?
Yeah.
And you can either let it consume you or you can embrace it. That's how I look at it. So if you can embrace it and enjoy and take in what's going on around you,
Yeah.
then that's what you want to do. And I think that's when the best performances come out.
Yeah, no, and I love that. I love that. And what I'm really hearing from you is just being present, right? Of
Mhm.
just, yeah, and there's this love about you, and just that I've definitely really learned to appreciate about you is it's fun. Like you can tell like you're having a ton of fun.
Yeah.
So what I would really love, give some people some insight, because the events you compete in
Yeah.
are like explosive, like they're powerful.
Mhm.
So what I would love to do is, what, as you come to the blocks and you're getting ready
Mhm.
to run a race, right? And this preparation, what is going through your head? Because again, it's all about, you've been training for, sometimes for a week, sometimes multiple weeks, sometimes months. And it comes down to really dialing it in
Mhm.
for, less than, a really short amount of time. Like what's the process going on in your head to really get you, as Hurdle would say, fired up, right?
Mm. I think a big thing for me is kind of telling yourself, you've been there and you've done reps and reps in practice all the time. And when I get to the start line, whether that's, warm up reps, or like when the runner, the starter says, runners take your marks, I'm just dialed in. I'm breathing, and I'm trying to calm myself down, because your breath, you're shaking almost at points, right? You're very anxious. um so kind of just breathing, and you know just kind of shutting your mind off a bit too. It's just like, okay, like don't overthink anything. Just once you hear that gun, just let it go. And then once that gun goes, everything's off the table. You're just it's just you, and whether it's the like a flat 100-meter, 200, whatever it is, or you got hurdles, you're just thinking, okay, I need to get to that hurdle as fast as possible. And at that point, you're not worrying about anybody else. You're just like, it's you and the lane, and that's what you're gonna do. And the next thing you know, the race is over. Right.
Yeah.
So I think just really breathing and focusing, and knowing, trusting yourself, and saying, this, you've trained for this, and this is how it's going to go, and you're going to run this race, and whatever happens, and you just got to go do what your best on that day is. It might not be, you're not going to PB every time, it might not be that, and you just have to let all that go and just say, I'm going to run this race, and this is going to happen.
That's so great, Matt. And a lot of things, as you were sharing, what really came up for me was the power of belief, right? It's just reminding yourself, hey, I've been here. I've done this before. I've
Mm-hmm.
performed at a high level. And I
Mm-hmm.
love how you even break things down into, drowning out. Like I can only control what's going on in my lane. That's it.
Mm-hmm.
And that's a great analogy, because you could talk about the physical lane, or even you're mentioning just the lane that's in between our two ears, and just,
Yeah. Yeah.
and that power of the breath, right? And getting, focusing on one hurdle
Mm-hmm.
at a time.
Yeah.
Oh, that's so again,
Well,
I
I,
just,
I look at it in a way that, um if you're worrying about other people and you're not focused on yourself, it's gonna take away from yourself, and you've already lost if you're focusing on other people, right? So.
yeah, power of attitude, right? Like drown out the bullshit, and just, I'm going to focus
Mhm.
on what I can control. I love how you tie in the breath too.
Exactly.
So powerful.
Mhm.
Okay.
Mhm.
So as you go there, what has sport? So you are, for those that don't know, I mean, you are, I firmly believe, I see you doing where you'll take track as far as you want to go. Like I have no doubt there. Like it's been amazing watching you, but you also are a high achieving student, right? Like you are in business, with a focus on finance. What has sport taught you as you start to explore, beyond track and field? Like what has sport taught you there?
Yeah. I think that, nothing's given to you. I think that's a big thing I've learned. You got to earn everything. Nothing's going to be handed to you. And whether that's sport or school, the work you put in is what you're going to get out, the results you're going to get out. And I mean, whether that's the work you put in practice or the grades you want to have, the amount of work you're going to put in, and it's not necessarily the time of work, it's that high quality work. And I think I'm still learning that. Sometimes I'll like work for hours and I'm just like, well, I'm not getting anywhere, but like really I'm not focused. I'm either, on my phone or not, whether it's watching sports or anything. I'm not dialed in there. And I think I'm learning that, or going through the process of that. And I think it's a huge learning curve. It's quality over the quantity for sure.
It's well, one, I love that you're very honest there and saying, hey, like I think it reminds me that the growth process is ongoing, right? You'll never have everything figured out. Like you got to get that
No.
like this. And there's one thing my coach said to me recently. He's like, stop trying to be perfect all the time. And I was like, yeah, you know what? And I love how you said, like, yeah, you're not going to PB every time. That's the goal, but it doesn't happen all
It's
the
the
time.
reality. It's the
Yeah.
reality. Yeah.
Now, as you do that, what sort of, as you transition, right? Because we were talking about, you looking for opportunities, in business and finance, right? For like summer jobs. How has sport built you well for that though? Beyond the hard work, like, is it as you go into a different arena, right? Business, finance, what are you finding? Like,
I think sport has built me to accept, failure, and if you not get that job or do well on something, like it's okay, to not do what you did. That doesn't mean that you can't do it later or you're not going to be successful. I think sport really, like, there's lots of goals and things I've put out in myself in sport, whether that's track or whatever growing up, that I haven't hit, you know, and that's the reality of things, and that's okay. And I think transitioning to putting into like my real life outside of sport with track, with finance and school, is like it's okay. And sometimes it can be tough. You really wanted to do something like get a job or something, but maybe you didn't get that, and that's okay. You got to take the positives away from that and what you can do better next time so that doesn't happen. Mhm.
yeah. And so what I'm hearing from you is really that idea of being objective with yourself, right?
Mhm.
Win, or you're either going to win something or you're going to
Mhm.
learn something,
Mhm.
right?
Yeah.
And just learning to be objective. And it's really interesting that you share that, Matt, because one thing that I heard recently was, life's pretty simple, right? Like we all want to win, right? And again, it's not like sport where there's like a winner and a loser. We can all win, right? We can all
Mhm.
achieve greatness. But it's
Mhm.
this idea of know yourself, right? Like know really what you want, like yourself,
Mhm.
right? Like celebrate your gifts, your talents, and your abilities, and
Mhm.
then be yourself, right? And just know that, hey, and that's one thing that's coming out for me is if you put in your best attitude and effort, good things are always going to come. Great things will
Yeah.
always come from that, right?
They might not be immediate.
Mhm.
That's, I think, something I'm learning. There's
Yeah.
it's not so black and white that like, okay, I put all this in, I'm going to get XYZ as an output.
Mhm.
It's still like maybe you get part of it, or you learn something, and you're always working towards whatever goal you have. And I think for myself right now, I've really learned that it's not instantaneous, whether that's school or track. I think
Yeah.
that's a big thing I'm starting to learn as I get older and kind of understand more things.
Yeah. I think this is a perfect point, Matt, that highlights, you're ambitious, you're driven, right? And that's
Mhm.
something that people like us that are ambitious and driven, the flip side of the coin is it pushes us to do great things. But then
Yeah.
also it's something we have to learn to harness because we can sometimes be our own toughest critics.
Yeah, worst enemy number one is yourself sometimes, right?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
yeah.
But here's where I would say, and this is something I probably used it more when I was coaching football, but I love this idea of, hey, I would rather tame a tiger than to train a pussycat, right? So
Mhm.
that fire that, high performers like you have, like, it's good. It's rather be sort of pulling you back sometimes and going, hey, there, than trying to like fire someone up, because that doesn't work, right? Like if you don't
Mhm.
have the ambition and drive, it's hard to compete at, it's hard to perform at a high level.
Yeah. Yeah. Totally.
Okay. So what I would love to know, Matt, is we are in an interesting time right now, right?
Mm.
Like there's a lot of life, there's uncertainty to begin with, but
Mhm.
add in the last year, depending on when you're watching this, hey, it is an uncertain time, unprecedented time in human history. And we'll just say it's
Mhm.
interesting to say the least. How has the last year really, like, how have you stayed so focused when there's so many unknowns? I mean, truth be told, your training schedule has been affected numerous times.
Uh,
You're not sure when the next meet is. Like, how do you stay hungry with so many unknowns, like not really having something to push you towards, like a date?
that's a good question. I think surrounding yourself with the right people is a big thing. Um, I mean, at Guelph, we have numerous high performance athletes who are aspiring for the same goals that I want to reach. So having those people around you just kind of, if you're too tired to go to practice, or you feel that way, but that person's going to be there. You're like, oh well, I got to get my ass there. I got to put that in work. I got to do. If you're tired of practice when you go lift, it's like, oh, I'm tired. But then, like, turn on some music. We do that in the weight room, and you see other people lifting things, like, well, I need to do that. You surround yourself with people who are high performance and high achievers as well, and it only bring the best out of you. And having, you know, with us being in Canada and everything being different compared to the rest of the world, I think also seeing the NCAA's, all those athletes running and putting up times, it kind of, spikes a little fire under me. It's like, okay, I need to be ready for when we can do it here, so I can put something up like that, and it has been tough, but I think a huge thing is surrounding yourself with the right people and having people that want to achieve the same things as you and believe in you as well. We have people, supporting each other all the time, checking in, and all that. So I think that's been a huge thing over the past year with, whether it's lockdown or not, it kind of, we're going to our third one. So I think having that support cast is been a huge thing.
Okay. So environment, right? Whether,
Environment.
yeah.
Hmm.
Okay.
Yeah.
And you bring up an amazing point, and I really want to highlight it because I think some people lose sight of it, is this idea of high performers don't always feel like it. Like you heard Matt, and again, Matt has been a high performer at every level of sport, right? And you don't feel like it certain times. Like, and you need to get that shit out of your head for people listening. You're like, not all high performers feel like it every day. Like we don't just wake up every day and go, oh yeah, like it's all sunshine and rainbows. And yeah, I feel like doing that work. But when you put yourself in an environment with around other high performers, what it disciplines you to do is it disciplines you to strengthen your habits, right? Whether it's going
Mm.
to the gym, whether it's going to the track for a workout, right? Whether even in business, whether it's picking up that phone for another sales call, right? It's just high performers they dial in their habits and they get very focused with their habits and they do the things they need to do to achieve the goals they want to achieve.
Mhm.
Okay. So what I would love to know, Matt, is, like I mentioned, it's been an interesting time, and there are people that, it hasn't been an easy time for many. Maybe someone is right now is struggling because the gyms are closed and they're just having a challenging time finding new ways to be active. Maybe it's someone's going through a relationship breakdown. Maybe someone is having to make a pivot in their career. Maybe their finances have just taken a beating over the last year. Or
Mhm.
maybe just life just seems to really be knocking them down. What is one piece of advice you would have for someone that's maybe just not having an easy time right now? Really just to how to get them up on their feet and just start creating some momentum again. What would that one piece of advice you would have?
With having a tough time, I think going back to the basics and kind of doing something that you enjoy. If things are not going well in your life, and go back to the things that you enjoy or you have been enjoying. And I think also communicating those feelings and keeping that line with give someone a call or something and chat about something. I know I've done that numerous times, and kind of catching up with old friends. I've been doing that a little more recently as well. I find that's kind of sparked some excitement and fun, and talking about old memories and stuff has helped with me. And I think doing that with, if anyone who's struggling, kind of brings it back to the basics, and kind of helps.
Yeah. I love that, Matt. I love that message of simplicity, right? Like just do something you love.
Hmm.
And when you do that, it's going to spark, such a joy and sense of peace that, one action it makes it easier to turn into a second action and third action and so on and so
Hmm.
on. So I really love that because I think it highlights you and what makes you such an amazing athlete, student, but most importantly, such an amazing human being is that you just love what you do and you go all in.
Hmm. Yeah.
Okay. So what I would just, Matt, first and foremost, I just wanted to acknowledge you for who you are. I am so happy and grateful and feel so blessed that you continue to allow me to be part of your life, and watching you grow and evolve in all areas of your life has been one of my greatest joys over the last few years. So thank you for allowing me to be a part of it.
Yeah, thanks for really appreciate when I was at Lucas and you came in grade 11, it really you were always there for me. And having you in my life is a huge part too. And like we were talking about earlier, we had our first meet in grade 11, and me and my dad went in Tobico and drove up, ran a centennial track, and you were there right at, I don't, it might have been 6:30 or 7 a.m. and it
Yeah.
was cold. It was
Yeah.
like negative, I don't know what it was. And I went, and I didn't even run that fast. And you were like, "That's okay, it's cold, whatever." And having you there, it meant a lot to me and my family. Having that support through a coach, and I mean, having that support since day one there has been great, and truly, truly amazing to have.
Yeah. Well, thank you, Matt. Yeah, it was a great day. It was a little cold that day. I
A little
came
cold.
underdressed. I'm just grateful you had some extra stuff because you're so well prepared. But yeah, no, it's great. And I'll sort of leave everyone with this. And this is something I mentioned to Matt is my last transfer to the school, Lucas, was a big part of it was football. But it always makes me smile and laugh that some of the closest connections I made during my 3 years there were, by embracing going back to track. So thank you for
Mhm.
reconnecting me to what I love to do, which is just really helping and supporting and being of service for other people. So thank you for yeah, just allowing me to continue to be a part.
Yeah, I appreciate you, Sue, a lot, for
Okay,
sure.
thank you.
Mhm.
So again, that wraps us up for the huddle again this week. If you have anything, I'll tag Matt in the Facebook Live. So again, if you have any questions, I'm sure, Matt would be more than open, to having a conversation. And you know what? As always, send me a message. I'm always fascinated by the ahas, the learning, the growth that comes from these huddles. And what I'm going to challenge you to do is, hey, knowledge is great. Matt gave a ton of knowledge. Like, you got inside the head of a high performer in not only sports, but academics and soon to be in the business world. And what I really want you to do is apply something that Matt said today. Okay. It's great to listen to what Matt's saying, but knowledge is potential power. It's the application of the knowledge consistently that creates greatness. So I encourage you, apply something Matt said today. Have an amazing, everyone, if you're tuning in live, long weekend. It's Easter. It's the Easter weekend here in Canada. So have an amazing long weekend. And I look forward to chatting with you inside the huddle next week. Have a great day, everyone.